We're just preparing to live stream. Yay. Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. How's it going? I'm just going to double check you can actually hear me on Facebook. Yeah, I think we're all good. Fantastic. It works. Yay. We're all good. Yeah. So there we go. Fantastic. It works. I'm here. I can hear myself now. Okay, that's enough. Okay, well, welcome to Upgrade Your Self-Confidence. I'm Iona. Thank you so much for joining. Tonight is all about self-concept. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. Tonight, if you're on Zoom with me, what we're going to do is we're going to stay in the chat box. So what I like to do is I like to keep everyone on mute and cameras off just for privacy and just to allow us to move through the class quickly, because there's usually quite a lot of stuff to move through. And I like to read, so feel free to share in the comments and interact in the chat box. And if you're on Facebook, then please leave comments in the comment section of this video on Facebook, and I'll come back after this class is finished and I'll interact with you there. So wherever you are, hello, how's it going? Happy Thursday. Okay, so before we get started with the self-concept, I just want to ask anyone who was at the class last week, we were talking about boundaries last week. And what I invited you to do was to set a boundary with yourself, something small, something fun, something light, something free and easy, something easygoing, something creative, or something like, you know, doing the dishes, putting the dishes away when you're finished with them, or when they finish in the dishwasher or whatever. So if you were part of the group last week and you did this, I would love to know how you got on with it. I'll give you just a moment to type in the chat. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get started with an exercise, a nice centering, relaxing exercise to ground us, bring us into the present moment for this class. Quite well. Good, Linda. I know, were you doing painting stuff last week, Linda? You said maybe you were going to set a boundary about like being creative and painting. How did that go? Did you manage to do what you wanted to do? And what I am keen to find out is, and playing piano, amazing, I love it. What I'm keen to find out is that were we creating excuses? Because that's something that we can do when we set boundaries, especially with ourselves, and we go to cross those boundaries. We sometimes set excuses as to why we need to cross the boundary, right? Why we can't stick to the boundary. And we can come up with so many excuses, but actually what we're doing is we're gaslighting ourselves. We're manipulating ourselves, right? We're not sticking to our own boundaries. So, which means that when it comes to us setting a boundary around other people or not, as the case may be, other people may cross our boundaries very easily. If we can cross our own boundaries easily, then that may mean that others find it easy to cross our boundaries. Damn gaslighting, exactly, Linda, absolutely. So every week we have a different topic, and sometimes the topics are using tools that I like to use to identify where in our lives we have low self-confidence. I teach authentic self-confidence. I don't go for quick fixes, but what I do is I look at what's not working for us, where our resistance is in our lives. Because where we have the most resistance in life, whether that be relationships, finances, work, friendships, home, whatever it is, where we have whatever circumstance or experience that we're facing the resistance, is usually going to be where we have the least confidence. And where we have the least resistance, where we're in life, in the circumstances or the experiences or the actions that we're doing, where we have the least resistance is where we have the most confidence. But I don't just teach confidence, because confidence isn't just confidence, right? And that's going to sound really confusing. And you're going to be like, Iona, what the heck are you talking about? So imagine that confidence is like, it's like a glass dome, you know, like it's a glass dome. And inside that dome, we have the physical body, the emotional body, and the mental body. Because your physical being isn't just your flesh and blood, right? It's your mind, your mental body, it's your physical flesh and blood and your bones, but it's also your emotional body too, right? We are physical beings, we think thoughts, and we feel feelings. And most people, when they're talking about confidence and self-confidence, they don't take into account the mental body and the physical body and the emotional body as being one whole unit, as being one unit, right? So if we were to lift up that glass dome, we would see that there's this being inside of it that has a conscience, and that conscience is a physical being, a mental being, and an emotional being. So we're going to take a moment and we're going to really settle that being right now. We're going to settle that being, because no matter what time it is for you today, whether it's morning, evening, or night, or afternoon, you've had a week, you've had a month, you've had a year so far, you've had a life, you've had a day, you've had hours. And sometimes it can be like, whoa, and we can be doing lots and lots of different stuff. And we can have thoughts and feelings and our physical body doing all of these different things. And it's really useful to come back into our centers, back grounded, back into our center, so we can focus really nicely on being and feeling and thinking, which is what we're going to do tonight. So what I'm going to ask you to do is sit back in your chair, in your seat, place your hands on your lap and your feet on the floor. And if you're lying down, that's totally fine as well. And you're going to close your eyes, take a nice deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And we're going to breathe in through the nose. And when we breathe out through the mouth, we're going to have a nice sigh. Breathe in through the nose and then sigh out through the mouth. And of course, if you're in public or if you're in somewhere where you can't make any noise, that's totally fine. Just breathe out as normal. But it is really cathartic to just have a nice couple of sighs out through the mouth, through the body, through the lungs. And just imagine your day, your morning, your afternoon, your evening, whatever time of day it is for you, previous to this moment, coming out of your being, like all of the tension, all of the stress, everything just leaving your being as you sigh. Perfect. And as we breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, we're going to notice, we're going to check in with that feeling, what it feels like, what the air feels like as it moves in through the nose, and what the air feels like as it leaves the body through the mouth. When it comes in through the nose, what does it feel like? Is it cool? Can you feel the air against your nostrils, against the hairs in your nostrils? What sensation is it? Check in and make a note what that feels like. And as the air leaves your lungs, leaves your mouth, check in what that feels like. Is it warm? Can you feel the air against your tongue and your cheeks and your teeth? What does that feel like as you do that? How does it feel? Really take a moment and just tap into that feeling and notice it. Focus on that sensation in your body of the air coming in through your nose and leaving via your mouth. How does that feel? Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to take one hand or both of our hands and place them in the center of our chest. Place them in the center of your chest. And as we breathe in, can you feel your clothes? Feel your chest, feel the warmth of your skin underneath whatever clothes you're wearing with your hand. What does that feel like? How does your shirt or your top feel? Does it feel soft? Does it feel smooth? How does it feel? Check in, notice that sensation. Mine feels silky and smooth. Wearing a silk shirt, silky and smooth, and it feels warm from the chest underneath. And then with your other hand on top, how does your hand feel? Feel your skin. How does your skin feel? Is it cool? Is it warm? Is your skin soft? Is it dry? How does it feel? Check in with your physical body and make a note of how that feels. And what we're doing when we do this is we're moving ourselves from our critical mental thinking body into our physical body. And many of us aren't in our physical body, we're in our mental bodies, because some of us have experienced things in our physical body and it's no longer safe for us to be in our physical body. So we pop up and live in our heads, live in our thoughts all the time, which is great, but not all the time. It's really, really useful for us to come back down into our physical body. And what we're going to do now is we're going to imagine that you have tree roots coming out of the soles of your feet, the bottom of your feet. And we're going to send these tree roots down into the floor and down into the ground. And if you're living up high, if you're sitting up high in a building, like me, for example, I'm on the 3rd floor of a building, of an apartment building. So I'm going to imagine my tree roots coming down into the floor and then going into the walls and then into the floor below, back into the walls and weaving in and out until it touches the ground, the foundations. And it's going to go down, 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 deep into the ground. So wherever you're sitting, imagine your tree roots coming down from your feet and into the ground beneath you. And you can imagine your tree roots going down as deep into the ground as you would like them to go. So you can take them as far as the core of the earth if you want to. Sometimes I like to imagine like a lightning speed, at quantum speed. My tree roots are plugging in with the core of the planet. And once I've done that, I breathe up. I imagine breathing this yummy Mother Earth energy. It's like lightning, it's like electricity coming back up my body from the ground, back up, 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 up into the walls, through these tree roots and back up into the soles of my feet. And I breathe it up into my body, up into my heart, just underneath where my hands are. So you send your tree roots out as far as you would like to go. And then imagine that you're drawing this abundant, really clean, really beautiful mother energy from the earth back up into your body. And what we're doing here is we're grounding. Grounding is a really important exercise to do. I love doing it. It really helps me to stay focused. And I've been doing this for years now, and I've gotten into a practice of just sending out my roots down into the earth like quantum speed, plugging in with the core of the earth and then breathing back up the energy into my body and imagining that there's like a sphere of light underneath my hands where my heart is, and it's getting bigger and bigger as I breathe it in. So we're breathing in that yummy, tasty Mother Earth energy, and then when I breathe out, it's going to come out the top of my head and swirl all around me like a fountain, like Old Faithful. It's like spilling out around me from the top of my head, and it's almost having a cleansing effect of my energy, of my body. So anyone who's just joined us, we've sent out our tree roots down into the ground. We're plugging in, we're going down as far as we like to go into the earth, go as far as the core of the planet if you like. And then we're breathing back up the yummy earth energy back up into our bodies. Breathing out, and imagine it coming at the top of our heads and spilling down all around us. And that is really helping us to feel centered. feel relaxed. Imagine it like cleansing you and washing all of the tension away from your day and your body. And it's just washing your body clean of any stress and anxiety and tension and your day, you know, like your if it's morning for you, like your nights last night or your day yesterday, or perhaps even your week or your month or your year so far. So we're really breathing in and allowing it to just cascade all around us, forming almost like a sphere all around us of really yummy, tasty Mother Earth energy, grounding, clean, precious, abundant energy that is free energy for us to tap into whenever we want to. And you know what? Sometimes when we do this, it puts us in our center and we feel immediately more confident. It's a really awesome thing to do. I love doing this exercise when I'm about to do some public speaking. I will send my roots down into the ground, breathe it back in, give myself a little fountain of energy, cleanse my energy, imagine this cascading, yummy Mother Earth energy clearing my whole being, my energy field, and that really puts me into a really nice centered, grounded place, so that when I'm public speaking, when I'm speaking to a large group of people, I feel like I'm having a conversation with friends and I'm less anxious, I'm less scared, I'm less in fear. So it really is a really beautiful exercise to practice. And I've been doing this every day for a very long time now, and it really is, it's a really lovely practice. Okay, so take a nice deep breath in and out, and we're just going to roll your shoulders back and get yourself nice and settled in your chair. And when you're ready, you can come back into the room. So pop back when you're ready. Hello. So hi, everyone who's just joined us. How are you doing? So I believe Heather and Raquel has just joined us on Zoom. Hello, girls, how are you doing? Let me know how you are, how you're doing. Yay! Happy for you to be here too, Heather. Okay, perfect. So today is all about self-concept. Yay, Raquel, you're so welcome. It's all good. Perfect. Okay, self-concept. Grab yourself a pen and paper if you haven't already done that. So like I mentioned at the start, we have mental body, physical body, and emotional body. And we also have like the etheric body, but I tend to not really go into that as such on these calls. I like to just keep it to what is kind of standard. So our self-concept is our mental body. Our self-esteem is our emotional body. And our self-confidence is our physical body. So our self-concept is what we think about ourselves. Our self-esteem is how we feel about ourselves. And our physical body, our self-confidence is how we show up and what we do and the action that we take using our physical body. And all of these, I find, are all relevant. They're all interconnected and interrelated. But today we're going to focus on the self-concept. So what we think about ourselves, what we think is true about ourselves. And the self-concept also covers our mental diet, right? Our mental diet. So what we are consuming with our mental body, the relationship that we have with our mental body, our daily thoughts, our imagination, our imaginal world. So what we're imagining to happen, whether that is positive or negative, and the inner conversations that we have with ourselves and the mental chatter, right? The mental chatter and the inner conversations. So that's the things that I would class as the self-concept, the mental body, the mental diet, daily thoughts, our imagination, our imaginal world, as I call it. I call the imagination the imaginal world, and inner conversations and mental chatter. So starting off with the mental diet. What do you consume on a daily basis in terms of with your mind? right, with your brain. And what by that I mean, what are you reading? What are you watching? What are you consuming? Are you on social media often? Are you on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook? Are you reading newspapers? Are you watching the news? Are you reading magazines? Are you reading signs on streets and things and advertisements on your daily commute? What are you consuming? Because I feel like what we consume creates a big part of our mental self, our mental body. And I only really noticed this since stopping watching the news, since stopping reading the newspapers, since stopping really taking note of advertisements, billboards, and things like that, and choosing what to consume. So that is selecting social media pages and magazine articles and things, books and things to read and consume that fits how I want my mental body to exist, how I want my mental body to be. Does that make sense? So I'd love to know in the chat what you consume with your mental body, because we have the mental body, the physical body, and the emotional body. And what we consume with the physical body is what we eat, you know, what we eat, what we put in our skin, what we consume. What we consume with our emotional body is the relationships that we perhaps have with others, what we're allowing, how we're feeling about things. Perhaps it's all about with the emotional body, perhaps it's about like having conversations with people and allowing them to dictate how we feel by their behavior. So the mental body, what are we consuming? Emily says the news is very, very heavy and negative most of the time. So yes, it is. The news is designed for a specific level of consciousness. And in this 3D reality that we're currently existing in, there are many levels of consciousness. And the news and the media cater to a specific level of consciousness. It promotes a specific group of emotions, right? Fear, scarcity, lack, anger, frustration, things like that. And it promotes a certain type of thought process and thought pattern, like it's not safe, I'm not safe, the world is a bad place. What other things does that type of consciousness create in terms of thoughts, right? Like the media, if we're consuming a lot of advertisement, we might start to have thoughts about we're not good enough, right? I'm not skinny enough, I'm not pretty enough, I don't look as good as that person, or I'll never get like that, or I'll never have that, things like that. Heather says, I watch positive movies, read all about self-help, practice a second language, do daily gratitude journals. Awesome, Heather. So you have a good mental diet. Amazing. And that's the thing. It's whatever we put in, whatever we consume in our bodies is how we're going to be, right? Whatever we're consuming is going to be our reality. So we can consume the news and the media and things like that, and it will have a specific effect on us. It's really interesting observing other people who spend most of their time consuming that type of media and listening to them having a conversation with other people and themselves. It's really interesting. Linda says, the news, my own engagement in animals and people well-being, rights tearing me apart, and I don't know how to select or make less. Yes, so that's the thing. Our mental body that's connected to our emotional body and our physical body, our emotional body will always let us know when we are consuming something that is going against our truth, or it's going against what we really believe to be true at some level, because we'll have a negative emotion towards it. And Negative emotions aren't bad or wrong. There are signposts. I believe that negative emotions are signposts to show us that we are diverting away from our course or our joy, right? Or our bliss or our peace. Because I believe that human beings, our natural state is excitement and joy and bliss, right? Little babies, when they come in, they are confident, they are joyful, they are excited, they are happy. That, I feel, is our natural state of being. So when we get older and we start to get influenced, right, when we start to get influenced by a lot of negativity and other things, that's when we can divert away from our true self, our true, authentic, confident self. We can get influenced by other people and their baggage and their mental diet. Raquel says, I believe I can often be affected by others' negativity, like someone having self-critical mindset at home. Yes, absolutely. And that is how important it is for us to have a strong self-concept, or practicing a strong self-concept, right? It's like any muscle. It's worth developing. And the only way we can get that stronger is by practicing and developing that muscle, by practicing our positive self-concept. Heather says, I feel mentally and physically awful when I watch the news or go on social media. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. And the amazing thing about it is that we can feel, it can trigger us, you know, it does trigger us, until we practice an unwavering strength and belief that that is irrelevant to us. I'll give you an example. During the lockdown, I was taking a lot of taxis. I had an appointment every week, a medical appointment. I would go to this appointment every week, and I would get taxis. And occasionally the taxi drivers would be playing the radio, and I would be getting really triggered by the news. So I would often ask the taxi driver if he could turn the radio off and put some music on or something like that. So one day I decided that I wasn't going to let it affect me anymore, because I have a strong self-concept that I believe that everything is working out for me, and that I choose to believe that the world is a good place, a loving place. There's plenty of health and positivity and love and support in the world, and depending on where your focus is, that's what you're going to see. So I actually plugged in to my own, and it took practice. It took me a lot of asking the drivers to turn the radio off, and really like focusing, going into myself, centering myself, doing that grounding exercise that we did at the start, and really coming back into my center, coming back into my truth, and then practicing what I wanted to believe was true for me, and consuming the things that helped me to stick to that. Yeah, that's all good, Ashley. Good to have you. Awesome. Okay, so mental diet. What are we consuming? So those who just joined us, it's self-concept is what we're talking about tonight. What we are consuming mentally, what we're reading, what we're watching, what we're observing. And if something is triggering you, then it will be, do what creates relief, right? Asking the taxi drivers to turn the radio off was what was going to bring me relief in my nervous system. When our nervous systems are triggered, we know, because we are panicking, we're anxiety, we're stressing, we're breathing goes funny, and we sweat, and all these other physical and mental and emotional symptoms and things pop up for us. That is your physical and emotional body telling you that you've diverted from your truth. And we have to do whatever it takes to create relief from that. It's not sustainable for us to stay in that triggered place. That is how our immune system gets shut down, right? That is how, if we're in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, fight, fright, freeze, fawn, can I remember the four? Then all of our really important systems in our body is not going to be running at an optimal level. I feel like the people who read the news for a living, oh my goodness, they must either have a really strong self-concept, or I don't know. But when we're that triggered all the time, it causes havoc to our really, really finely tuned systems, right? Our immune system, our reproductive system, our digestive system, our endocrine system, all of these amazing systems, our circulatory system, that are so finely tuned to peace and relief and harmony and excitement and joy, like all get mixed up and all start to just shut down. So it's really important that we choose a mental diet that's going to help us stay in relief and stay where we want to be. Which takes me on to the next point, which is our daily thoughts. So what are we thinking about? Are we spending a large percentage of our day in fight, flight, freeze, fawn? Are we spending a large part of our day telling ourselves things that are not beneficial? Are we telling ourselves cruel things, mean things, unhelpful things for many reasons, such as we were never taught otherwise. We've never had a reference point otherwise showing us how to think in a beneficial, supportive way. We perhaps observed other people in our family thinking like this and behaving like this and talking out loud, saying their thoughts out loud. And us, because we've never been taught otherwise, or we want to be loved and accepted by them, we want to feel accepted by them, we take that on as our own daily practice. We perhaps have thoughts that are comparing ourselves to other people, right? Observing others. And I want to just make it known that this is completely normal. Our brain has a primate element to it. I don't know if anyone's ever read Chimp Paradox, but it's a really amazing book. You should absolutely check it out. And it's all about the primate brain that actually runs our fight, flight, freeze, fawn functions. It also runs our not good enoughness and our not enoughness. Oh, Raquel, you did. How did it go? How are you finding it? Because that part of our brain, that's how it runs. That's how it functions. It functions with these programs. And we are not, yes, we're part of the primate family, but we're human beings. We've evolved from that. Most of the world is still running with the primate brain as its main operating system. But actually, we have a human function, a human operating system. We can say enough to that part of our brain and choose something different. So knowing that feeling not good enough and feeling not enough, comparing ourselves to others and having negative thoughts is healthy and normal, but it's not helpful. So are we going to evolve from that consciousness, from the primate consciousness, into a human consciousness, which says enough to that part of the brain and step into an empowered part where we get to choose what we're consuming and what we're thinking? Raquel says it's super interesting. The chimp brain is essentially the survival part. Yes, and it can work to secure the next generation, even at the cost of the body sometimes. I had some, absolutely, yeah, it's such a powerful part of the brain, but it's not the most powerful part. Like, it's the survival part. If you imagine a group of primates and one of those primates gets rejected and ostracized from the group, that could mean potential death for that primate, right? So we run around with that programming. We run around with that fear of rejection, of abandonment, of being shunned, of being ostracized, of being criticized. That all equals the primate brain, equals death, potential death for us, even though it's not most of the time, right? It's not. We're just gonna, we might have a bad day if we get fired or whatever, or we get like told that we look some way. It usually doesn't mean, it's usually not critical, but the brain, the primate part of the brain, logs it as potentially dangerous. So we spend all of our lives trying to avoid being shut out, being shunned, being ostracized, being rejected, being made to feel not good enough. But actually, we have picked up these perspectives and these thoughts from people who were acting, reacting, and interacting from that brain, from that primate brain, from that survival brain. Everyone, you can see it on the news, you can see it on social media, everyone is in survival mode. Everyone is traumatized and in survival mode. And nobody really knows how to get out of it. Some people don't want to, and some people don't know how to. And it's all about becoming aware of it and choosing, becoming aware that that is part of me. It's not my identity. I'm a human being and I get to choose what is true for me. I get to choose my thoughts. I get to choose what to think. I get to choose what to consume. Because I'll bet the things that we think about ourselves, we would never say out loud to a loved one. But it's almost as if sometimes we've convinced ourselves that we have to tell ourselves these things to keep us grounded, right? To stop us from getting an ego or a big head. Or we tell ourselves it's going to keep us safe, to keep ourselves small. It's not safe for us to give ourselves a pep talk. It's not safe for us to feel good because something bad might come along and it might happen, it might take it away. If I tell myself nice things, I'll get a big head and I'll get a big ego. And when people say that, I ask, what are your values? Because I'm sure that you are not a bad person, that you are a good person at your core, and that you would never say something mean to another person that you love, right? Like a child or a niece or a nephew or a loved one. You would give them support and love and tell them that it's going to be okay. So why not do that with the self? Because the self and us, right? Us and ourselves, we've got to be with ourselves our whole life. And I don't know about you, but I want to make it a nice place up here. I want to make it a nice place to live. I've lived in a not a very nice place for a very, very long time in my mind. And that has not been fun. It's not been pleasant. It's not been joyful. It's not been love. It's been hateful and critical and judgmental and anxious and fearful and scared and frightened and things like that. And I say enough because I know that that's the primate brain that wants to keep me safe. But as a human being, I have power to say enough to that part of my brain and step into my power as a human being and decide what I want to think about myself. And what I want to think about myself is what I want to think about other people that I love, other people that I respect, other people that I would love to sit and have a conversation with, a loving conversation with. So if I'm going to be around myself for a long time, if I'm going to be with myself, if my relationship with myself is the most important relationship I'll ever have, then I want to make it a nice relationship. I want to make it a loving relationship. I don't want to make it a manipulative, bitchy, backstabbing, judgmental, critical, harsh, mean, selfish, icky relationship. I want it to be a relationship of love and kindness and peace and joy and excitement and relief and all of these things. Yes, I'll have my moments where I'm like, Iona, what the hell are you talking about? Why did you do that? You're an idiot. Oh my God, what the hell? But actually, that's getting less and less these days, because I understand that I'll have a moment, I'll have a wobble. It's easier for me to bounce back from the wobble if I'm telling myself nice things. If I'm saying to myself, it's okay, shit happens, everything's working out for you, you have evidence, right? The primate brain loves to collect evidence, right? It loves to collect evidence as to why things are the way they are. If we have been programming, if that primate brain has been running a program of I'm not good enough, then it will have been collecting evidence as to why things don't work out and as to why things aren't good, as to why we're not good enough. But now I'm like, enough of that stuff, because it doesn't feel good and it's not helping. It's not helping me. It's not helping me and it's not helping others. How can I help others to feel good enough if I don't feel good enough within myself? How can I help others to have nice thoughts about themselves if I don't have nice thoughts about myself? So enough to that part of my brain. I'm stepping into my human being power, and I'm choosing thoughts like, everything's working out for me. You are good enough. Yeah, you've got some work to do. You've got some stuff to move through, but you know what? You're good enough right now in this moment. It's all good. It's fine. It's good. It's great. It's perfect. Bueno, right? And just the feeling in the physical body and the emotional body when going from that harshness and that criticism, which was never mine in the first place, might I just add, right? Me observing other people, my parents talking to themselves in that mean, bitchy, nasty, horrible way, and me thinking that that's what I had to do. And yeah, them talking to me in that way too, right? But me deciding that actually that's not mine, that's theirs, that's how they that's how they want to think, that's how they want to feel. I don't want to feel like that. I don't want to bring my children into the world and teach them to think like that, because that doesn't make for very happy human beings. It makes for afraid and anxious and upset and angry human beings. So I'm just going to go back on the chat here. So Raquel says, because it's what we hear growing up too from people, they're meant to support us. Yes, absolutely. But that's the thing. There's no instruction booklet, is there, to how to human? There's no how to human for dummies. And I feel like life experience is a really great teacher, and many of us have experienced not so great things. And I'm not excusing what has happened to us, but it can, when we get into that mindset of actually, I'm good, I'm fine, everything's working out, I'm okay, I'm not broken, I'm actually okay, I'm not flawed at my core, I'm not wrong, I'm not bad, I don't have to be ashamed of myself. At my core, I feel like I try to be good, I want to be good. When we shift into that paradigm, into that way of thinking, it feels different. And we can actually start to learn how to human. We can actually help people, we can support people the way that we needed to support others, or we needed the support, sorry. We can support others in the way, and support ourselves in the way that we never had the support. And it's really magical and it's really beautiful. And it's where I feel leadership is going. Like, one of my mentors uses the phrase, women who lead themselves, or humans who lead themselves. We can lead ourselves, then we can lead other people. Whether that is a family, right? Your family, leading your family, or leading your partner, not in like a do this or not in a conditional way, but just in a setting a positive example kind of way, because people don't do what we say, they do what we do, right? Like, my parents growing up would always tell me to have more confidence. Just have more confidence, just be more confident. I didn't know how to do that. I couldn't do what they said. I couldn't do what they said. I could do what they did, which was berate themselves and tell themselves that they're not good enough, and that nothing ever works out and the world is a bad place. I could do that, And I did that. So human beings don't do what we say, they do what we do. So I feel like it's time for us to be that cheesy phrase, the change that you want to see in the world. Such a cheesy phrase. Linda says, don't dare to be happy because maybe it will be taken away, struck me so deeply. Yeah, totally. This is a big one. Lead by example, Rica. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, don't dare be happy. And this is so perfect for anyone who's had a traumatic experience or perhaps experienced loss, or had a parent who experienced loss and trauma at a young age and didn't have the container, didn't have the capacity, wasn't given the support to move through that trauma, to transform it and to heal it and integrate it. So for them, it became unsafe to be happy. It became unsafe to feel good because there was a risk of it being taken away because they had experienced this loss. And if perhaps at that time when they experienced the loss, they felt good and they felt joyful, and then something came along and took it away from them. Because remember, trauma isn't necessarily the bad thing that happens to us. It's what happens to our emotions as a result. It's what happens to us as a result of that thing that happens to us, right? Like 5 people could have the same experience, and depending on how that group of people had been raised and what kind of emotional support they had will absolutely determine whether it becomes a traumatic event for them or not, right? So if we had parents or family members or guardians or even teachers who experienced something traumatic and did not have the support to move through it and integrate it, then that becomes their trauma point, that becomes their baggage, right? And then they start to project that onto other people, and they start to act, and they start to set an example for others around them of what the world is like. The world is a bad place, X, Y, and Z. So it's really interesting looking at how people behave, what people say, and observing them as somebody who isn't a very happy person, who perhaps has not been given a chance to work through an experience or a circumstance that was probably adversarial. You know, it was probably something difficult for them. So we've got the mental diet, we've got daily thoughts. So think about your thoughts from the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you go to sleep at night. Where do your thoughts go? Do your thoughts go to the past? Do you spend a lot of time thinking about how the past and how it could have been and how it could be? Do you spend time in the future thinking about what could be and what might be? Or do you spend time in the now, right? Focusing on the now. Because the now is all we ever really have. We only ever really have the now moments. And life is just a collection of now moments, right? That's all life ever is. It's just a collection of now moments, now moment, now moment, now moment, now moment. Yesterday doesn't exist. Tomorrow doesn't really exist. It's just another now moment. So how do you want to be? How do you want to feel in your now moments? Because your thoughts are extremely influential. Our thoughts are powerful. Our thoughts, our self-concept is what we think of ourselves. And if we have a low self-concept, then we're going to have when we experience challenges, because we're human beings and that's what we came here for. We came here to experience challenges, as crappy as it is sometimes. When we experience challenges and we have a low self-concept, then it's going to be more challenging for us. But if we experience challenges and we have a higher self-concept where we're thinking thoughts that are more kind and more beneficial, and we're consuming things that are healthier and that are in alignment with what kind of consciousness, what level of consciousness we want to exist in, then we're going to have a better time. We're going to feel better. We're going to be better, because remember, physical, mental, and emotional body It's all one being. So, and they all influence each other. So when we're thinking better, we're feeling better, and we're being better. Our physical body is better. So morning to evening, how do your thoughts go? Right now in this moment, even if you were to think about your thoughts, if you imagine it as like a pendulum, right, or a stick, right? One end of the stick, we have wanted thoughts that are positive and nice and pleasant and beneficial and kind. And the other end of the stick, or the other side of the pendulum, we've got unwanted thoughts that are unkind and unpleasant and critical and harsh and judgmental and bitchy and cruel. How far do you go on that pendulum, or what end of the stick do you pick up the most? Because I know for me, for a long time, I was picking up the end of the stick that was the bitchy, critical, judgmental side of the stick, because I didn't know what else, I didn't know how to pick up the other. I didn't know there was another part of the stick. I didn't know there was another side. So busy focused on this end of the stick, I didn't know there was another end to the stick, right? Ashley, I ruminate a lot on past negative experiences. Thanks for sharing, Ashley. Yeah, absolutely. And this again is coming from that primate brain, because it wants to keep us safe, right? It very much wants to keep us safe. And if we stay in the bad stuff, there could be many, many reasons why we do that. So have a think. If that's what you're doing, if you're spending a lot of time ruminating in the negative experiences, ask yourself the question, how is this benefiting me? Like, what benefits do I get in my now moments from ruminating on past negative experiences? Because there will be reasons for doing it. Everything that we do, we have a reason for doing it. So what is the reason? Does it have benefits, or does it have no benefits? We're doing it because we feel like it keeps us in our place, or we feel like if we don't do it, then someone else is going to do it for us. Or we perhaps feel like it's just habit, because we don't know anything different. We've never been taught otherwise. Perhaps we feel like if we focus on that negative experience, then it's never going to happen again. So we're just making surely sure that it's definitely never going to happen again. But I'll bet you it would never happen again anyway, right? Or it would never, if it was a case of making a choice, you would probably be more inclined to make the better choice anyway, because that's where your consciousness, that's where your nervous system wants to go. It wants to go towards the better feeling place, the better thinking place. So if we ruminate on past experiences, what benefit, if any, do we have in our now moments that is creating for us? Raquel says, it's definitely improved over time and with practice. I've recently started recognizing my emotions in the morning and addressing them and the needs. So it's a lot of repetitive thoughts. Yeah, totally. Absolutely, that's great. So I love journaling in the morning, just getting all your thoughts and feelings out onto the page in the morning, because the reticular activating system that is triggered by handwriting, by pulling the thoughts out of our frontal lobe, the base of our brain, the front of our brain, the reticular activating system, they've done so many studies and tests that actually help us to integrate our trauma and integrate past experiences, negative experiences, by writing it onto the paper, by feeling it, by writing it, allowing ourselves to feel it and go through it. And then you can always just destroy that paper if you don't want anyone else to read it. You can rip it up, you can burn it, you can do whatever you want with it. You don't have to keep it. I have so many notebooks, of what I call brain drain, of morning and sometimes evening draining my frontal lobe of the stuff that's at the forefront of my mind, of my thoughts and feelings, because I know how powerful it is to move that stuff out of the way. And once we start moving all that sludge and stuff out of the way, we can actually access better thoughts. We can access freedom and peace and harmony and relief and stuff that's way better for our nervous systems, way more beneficial for us and our beings. So actually, I thought initially I could solve past issues, but it's probably just now have it. Okay, cool. So we absolutely can use our imaginations and go into the past. And this is what, so the next point is the imaginal world. So our imagination is an extremely powerful place. If you think about all of the things that exist in the world, all started off as a thought. This pen, this ballpoint pen, my laptop, my microphone, my blouse, my paper, like anything that you can see in your environment started off as a thought in someone's imagination. Me sitting here in this, behind this computer, talking to you, doing this call, started off as a thought in my imagination. I was like, oh, how cool would it be to like have amazing conversations about confidence? And a couple of years later, I'm here doing it, right? So our imagination is an extremely powerful place. We can use it like anything. We can use it for good, or we can use it for not so good. We can use our imagination to go back into the past and change our memories of things that we have experienced. You can do this in meditation. You can do this via hypnosis. You can simply just take a moment and just tap in and think about something that happened and imagining it happening differently. And it may take a number of goes for it to become your truth. But how this is so powerful is that the brain and the body, the human being, doesn't know the difference between something that's imagined and something that's real. That's why we can get into such a state, why we can get ourselves so triggered when we think about things, think about certain past experiences. So if you're going to do this, and if you're going to play with your imagination and change something from the past, start off with something small and something easy. And if you want to do it with something kind of tricky and sticky and traumatic, do it with a practitioner, do it with a coach or a therapist or a counselor who can help guide you through so that you don't get stuck actually just ruminating and being triggered again and re-traumatizing yourself back in that past experience. But athletes, right, world Olympian athletes, award-winning, trophy-winning, medal-winning, gold medal, first place winning athletes do this all the time. They will use their imagination and imagine themselves winning that thing. They will run through that exercise or that whatever it is, that run or cycle or whatever they're doing. They'll imagine it so many times in their head that when it comes to do it, because the imagination doesn't know, or the being, right, the body, the mind, and the emotions don't know the difference between what's imagined and what's real. When they go to do the thing, it's like they've already done it a million times because they have in their minds. And it's so powerful. So if you have an issue from your past, right, you can absolutely play that over in your head, take a specific amount of time, right? Give yourself, I don't know, 10 minutes a day, right? Don't go hours and hours and hours and hours and hours because you'll just end up like being stuck in the loop, right? Give yourself an allotted period of time where you go back and you see that thing happening differently and practice it happening. It's happening differently. It's happened differently. And it will take time, right? Because you're firing and wiring a new neural pathway. So it'll take a little bit of time and practice and persistence, but you will believe, you will think that that is how that thing happened. And it's really, really powerful. We do this all the time in my coaching. In fact, we've done it a few times on these classes where we spend time with our inner child, right? I have my 15-year-old self here and I spend time, I have my inner toddler, preschool, primary school, high school, teenager, 20-year-old something self, right? And I am constantly checking in with them and building a relationship with them. And this is really, really powerful. Our imagination is it's so powerful, and we can imagine anything that we want to experience. And when I imagine spending time nurturing and caring for my inner child, who perhaps at some time felt neglected or felt not good enough or felt not seen or validated or felt like she wasn't enough or that she was bad or wrong or she had to be ashamed of herself. If I spend the time with her and talk to her like I would a loved one and say to her, it's going to be okay. Hey, what do you need right now? Do you need a hug? Do you need a solution? Should we talk through this? Should we have a conversation about it? Or do you just want me to sit with you, hold your hand, or play Barbies with you, or I don't know, like stroke your hair, give you a cuddle, give you a blanket, give you a teddy? What do you need? And really using the imagination to create that relationship. I feel like now I am a different person because that child is now a different person. Now it feels, previously when I was really struggling with confidence and esteem and things like that and my self-concept, it was really unsafe. It felt really unsafe for me to be seen by other people because I had been made to feel growing up that I wasn't good enough and that I had to hide myself and it wasn't safe for me. And that who am I to want this, want to be seen? Who am I to want this? I'm just a little girl from a farm in the middle of nowhere in Scotland, right? Who am I to ask for this? And actually, by using my imagination to go back and talk to that little girl who was living on a farm, who felt like she wasn't good enough, felt like she didn't, who was she to ask for this? She felt ashamed of herself. By having that conversation with her, nurturing her, getting to know her, and being there for her, giving her the support and the structure that she didn't have at that time, I'm now, it feels safe for me to show up. It feels safe for me to be seen. It feels safer for me to be seen because I'm not that little girl anymore, right? That little girl doesn't exist anymore. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? So we can absolutely influence our past. And because remember, the now moment is all we ever have, right? So if we can use our now moment, go back there and change our perspective of it, it's so powerful. Raquel says, I feel like I did this as a kid before bed, like changing how an argument went almost. Yeah, absolutely. How many of us did this when we were little? Like we would use our imaginations at bedtime. Like I used to dream about castles and mansions and big dresses and playing about and being like the lady of the castle or flying airplanes. And I use my brain to have adventures. And we're not confusing this with magical thinking, which is something slightly different, which is what we tend to project onto others when we want other people to change, right? This is about us, right? This is about us using our own imagination to really transform, right? Transform our self-concept, our perspectives of ourselves, what we think of ourselves. If you can use your imagination to transform how you think about yourself, what your daily thoughts are, that's everything, right? That's everything. I have an awesome Abraham Hicks quote that I really love. I'm just going to find it, right? It's, I never face reality. I never face reality. I create reality. I create my reality using my imagination, using my mind, using my feelings and my physical body. But tonight we're using the mind, right? So I create my reality. I've had so many people in my life telling me I can't do the thing, right? And for so long, I took their word as gospel and I believed them. Okay, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I can't do that thing. And until one day I thought, no, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna use my imagination to do the thing, right? Being told in high school, growing up in the butt end middle of nowhere in Scotland on a farm, dreaming about dressing. I've probably told this story many times before to you, but for those who haven't heard it, for the last 15 years, I worked in the fashion industry. And I still do occasionally work as a seamstress for pop stars, bands, artists, people like that who are coming into the UK. So I'm the UK and Scottish local seamstress for pop stars and bands who are coming in. Anyone who needs alterations done, anything made like last minute. Scotland and the UK is usually either the middle point or the end point of world tours. So I get a call saying, or I was for 15 years, I got a call saying, Iona, so-and-so's trousers have fallen apart. I need you to come and fix them. You've got 2 hours. So that was my life. I grew up in Scotland in the middle of nowhere, watching Top of the Pops, watching like MTV, right? Looking at all these pop stars and artists performing and dreaming about being one day with them and dressing them and being involved in the fashion industry and being around these people and being around this vibe of confidence and success. And I was told so many times, what? You can't do that. You don't live in America. You don't live in London. You're just this little farm girl who grew up in the middle of nowhere. You can't do that. And for a long time, I believed them until one day I decided that it was BS, that their truth was not my truth. So I used my imagination. I use my imagination and I use my emotional body. I use my physical body, my mental body, and my emotional body to imagine a reality where that was possible for me. I didn't ask how. I didn't worry about the how it was going to happen. How it happened was the most ridiculous thing that I could never have thought of anyway, right? Working in a theatre, and the catering manager of a big auditorium lived next door to somebody I worked in the theatre with, one of the techies in the theatre, passing on the driveway one day, and they're talking about how this auditorium wardrobe seamstress had got fired because she lied in her resume and told them she couldn't sew, and they're stressing out, and this is just like gossip coming from the wardrobe department. And the person I'm working with in the theatre, the techie in the theatre, goes, oh, here's Iona's number, give her a call. So or tell so-and-so to give them a call. So they pass my number on to the wardrobe department, and I get a phone call saying, Kai, can you come in and dress this superstar? Which I did. And that was the start of my career in the fashion industry. I didn't go for an interview. The job didn't come up online. I wasn't looking for the job. I had a job, right? I was running a business at that time. I was teaching in colleges and universities. I was teaching fashion in college and uni. So if you had told me how I would have got that job that lasted me for 15 years and I became an expert in my field, I would have told you, no way, there's no way that could happen. There's no way that could happen. I didn't worry about the how. I used my imagination. I imagined me standing under a stage within the quick change, holding the outfit ready for whoever to come off the stage, do a quick change. And I'm standing there with my kit, with my sewing needles and my scissors and my stuff. And I'm like, yes. And I feel excited. I feel elated. I feel grateful. I feel so good. And the thoughts I'm thinking, this is possible for me. I can do this. Everything works out for me. This is going to work out for me. It works out for me. I get there. I do it. Not only do I do it, but I kick ass and I tell the story afterwards. And here I am telling the story afterwards. And I remember a couple of years ago standing underneath the stage, right? Standing underneath the stage in quick change, holding a garment, waiting for the artist to come off the stage for me to quickly change what they're wearing, and having that moment of, oh my God, this is it. I imagined this. I imagined me doing this, and I'm here, right? So it honestly, what we believe to be true and what we use our imagination for is everything. We can imagine the worst. We can catastrophize. We can go to hell and back with our imaginations, or we can start using our imagination. We can start using our minds to bring us what we want. It's time for us to not face reality, but to create reality, especially if someone's telling you that you can't do something. That's just their perspective. That's what they believe to be true. You can believe something different. It's your job to believe something different. Oh, Darsha, you're away. If you watch the recording, yeah, amazing. Okay, yay, awesome. Dare to be Wild. Oh, I've not seen that movie. That sounds like a fun movie. I need to write that down and watch that, Heather. Thanks for that tip. Dare to be Wild. Okay, cool. So that's our imaginal world, right? What you imagine to be true, what you see, you can use your imagination. Your imagination is even more powerful when you couple it with your emotions, right? When you start to feel how you want to feel when you're doing the thing. We'll go into self-esteem next week, which is about the emotional body, but tonight is about the self-concept, which is the mental body. Heather says, I made my work passwords about finding a new job and ended up with a new job a couple of months after. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because that's what you're consuming, right? You're consuming. So every time you think that password, it's like an affirmation, right? That's it's in your mind. And your subconscious mind, once you have set yourself a new belief that something's possible, your subconscious mind will be scanning always for that opportunity, right? You'll always be scanning for the thing, not consciously, but subconsciously. And that's how powerful it really is. So the final point is inner conversations and mental chatter. So what are you telling yourself is true? What are we telling ourselves is possible for us? Are we telling ourselves that it's not possible, that we can't have what we want? Are we telling ourselves that it has to be like this, that the world is a bad place, nothing ever works out for us, it's just got to be like this? Or can we tell ourselves that maybe we're the exception to the rule, right? Maybe we're the exception. Maybe things do work out for us, and start collecting evidence as to why things work out for us. I'll bet you can think of something right now. I bet you can think of 3 things right now that have worked out for you in life. Right now, in this moment, take a moment and think of between 1 and 3 things that have worked out for you. When something has worked out for you the way that you wanted it to work out. Because that is evidence. That is your evidence that things work out for you. So you can choose to look for evidence for things that aren't working out for you, and then keep creating that, because your subconscious is going to look for things that aren't working out for you, and that's going to be your truth. And create that reality, right? Face that reality and create that reality. Or you can decide that you're going to start looking for evidence as to why things are working out for you. Your subconscious mind will start to build a collection of evidence as to why things are working out for you. That is the reality that you create. And sometimes, if you've been practicing, things aren't working out for so long, and you're still creating a reality of that, and you decide that you want to start creating a reality of everything's working out for me, that's why it's so important to not really pay attention to what's going on in your outside world, right? Circumstances and life, like the 3D, has no bearing on what's possible for us. Yes, yeah, absolutely. This is how powerful it is, Raquel. Like we can really tap into our fortune, right? And our #blessings, right? #blessed. Actually, as I've tried substituting the thought, nothing ever works out for me with things are always going to work out for me, no matter how it looks at any point in time. Yeah, absolutely. And have you noticed the difference in how that feels, actually, going from nothing ever works out to actually things work out, how the difference it feels? It's like, it's a lighter feeling. It feels more like relief, doesn't it? Whereas the nothing ever works out for us, if we're seeing that as a reality and proving ourselves right, it can feel good, but not in a nice way, right? We're proving ourselves right. But actually, when we start to shift into everything works out for me, then it's a better feeling good. It's a better good feeling, right? It's a lighter feeling. It's an upward feeling. It's a, what's the word? Upliftment. It's an uplifting feeling. It's so much relief. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what we how we communicate with ourselves is so important. How we communicate with ourselves is everything, right? Because you're with yourself for your whole life. So how are you going to communicate with yourself? How do you want to communicate with yourself? Do you want to communicate with yourself like other people have communicated with you? How are we using their communication towards us as how we communicate with ourselves, right? Perhaps we have experienced like a verbal abuse, right? Someone has spoken to us in a way that is really abusive and not nice and not pleasant and quite mean and bitchy and awful. Maybe it's happened a couple of times, and that is how, because we perhaps maybe respected them at some level or put them on a pedestal or believed that they were more important or better than us, we've taken their word as verbatim as what is the truth, and we talk to ourselves in that way. But that doesn't feel good. And remember that if something doesn't feel good, that's your emotional guidance system telling you that you're veering off of course, you're veering away from your truth. Your truth feels good, right? And when you start to tell yourself nice things, it can feel a bit weird because you're not used to doing it, right? You can feel like, oh, this feels weird. But it takes practice. It's like building that muscle again. Building the muscle of positive chatter, positive self-talk. Talk to yourself like you would the person that you love most in the world. The person that you love most in the world. If you talk to them like they're an a-hole, right, then that's not going to feel very good, is it? But if you talk to that person who you love most in the world, like you love them, like everything's going to be okay. It's all good. Don't worry. Calm down. Everything's going to be okay. I love you. You're amazing. You're doing good. You're doing a good job. You're fine. What you're doing is all good. Talking to them gently, supportive, pleasant, kind words. It feels a different feeling, right? We're using our brain to create a whole new paradigm within us. So what do we want to say to ourselves? When I tap in and I see all those different versions of me from preschool, from toddler, preschool, primary school, high school, teenager, university, 20s, going into my job, going into my career. If I look at those girls, right? If I talk to them like they were spoken to by other people, it doesn't feel good. You are loved. Yeah, that's such a beautiful one, Raquel. You are loved. Yeah, that's so powerful. I don't know if you've ever heard that from someone before, like from someone who's said that to you, but it's such a warm, cozy feeling being told that you're loved. Like it feels really like, oh, it's just such a beautiful, warm feeling. And if we've never felt that before, if we've never been told that before by anyone, try saying it to someone. Try saying it to someone that you love. Try telling them that they are loved and see how it feels when you say the words. And next time you look at yourself in the mirror, tell yourself that you are loved. How powerful that is. So powerful. If we're talking to ourselves, so if I'm talking to those versions of me, if I'm talking to those girls, right, those versions of me, like other people spoke to her, which was mean and bitchy, who are you to want this career? Who are you to want this life? How dare you, right? That's below you. You're not worthy of that. You're not good enough. You're not lovable. You're not good enough. You're not worthy. You're bad. You're wrong. X, Y, Z. That doesn't feel good. And I know it's not beneficial. And I know that when it comes to talking to other people, if that's my own narrative with myself, and I'm trying to encourage others, right? There's going to be a disconnect there. If I'm telling other people, you're loved, you're worthy, you're good enough, but I'm telling myself, you're not good enough, you're not lovable, you're unlovable, you're not worthy. People don't do what you say, they do what you do. So this is why I feel like, especially for anyone who's a parent or who has young children around or younger people around, our self dialogue, our inner chatter is so important because we're setting an example of how others are going to talk to themselves. Like it breaks my heart when I hear my partner talk badly about himself or talk down to himself, and he's expressed that he feels the same way when he observes me doing it to myself. Whenever we talk badly to ourselves, about ourselves and other ones in the room, it feels like, oh, it hurts, because I love that person and I want him to feel good. I don't want him to feel bad. I want him to feel loved. I want him to feel like he is lovable and that he's worthy and that he's good enough. And so like we feel like, oh, there is like a disconnect there, which is why it's so important for us to really embed that within ourselves and use our mental body to create this world, create this life, right? Create this experience for ourselves that other people observe and go, that looks, I want that, like there's enough negativity in the world. There's enough berating and shaming and being called out, right? There's enough of that. It's enough of it, like no more, enough. Right? And yeah, okay, it's still gonna exist, because remember, we came into this world with all these different levels of consciousness, and that is one level of consciousness. We can choose to experience another level of consciousness, a kinder level, a more caregiving, a more free, relieving, and just nurturing level of consciousness, which is really, really great. I want you to think about an affirmation that you're going to tell yourself whenever you catch yourself in negativity, thinking negative thoughts. What can you tell yourself? Because that is what we're going to do for next week's homework. We're going to give ourselves an affirmation. We're going to give ourselves a phrase, and you can have mine if you want. Mine is, everything is always working out for me. And I just want to reiterate that everything means everything, right? It doesn't mean some things sometimes. It doesn't mean just this thing over here, but not this thing here, and not this thing over here, but maybe that. Everything means everything. And always means always, right? If something appears like it's not working out for me, because everything always works out for me, I trust that it's going to work out no matter what happens. It might happen in a different way. It might work out in a different way than what I thought it was going to work out. But because everything works out for me, everything always works out for me, I can trust that whatever's happening is going to work out for me. So that's what I use whenever I feel like I'm having that. And I have different variations of that phrase, like money is always working out for me. Social media is always working out for me. Love is always working out for me. Money, whatever you want to choose, you can have that. But you can also make your own. And it could be I am loved, or I am good enough, or I am worthy, or I am enough. What can you tell yourself when you catch yourself in negativity, thinking negative thoughts? What can you use? Because we're going to do that this week. We're going to spend this week diverting our thoughts, putting into practice this phrase and shifting, right? Making the shifts, because that's all it is. It's a muscle that we're developing. We've spent a long time running those neural pathways, right? Those neural pathways are really, really tight and strong, but we're building a new neural pathway, right? And we're over here building this new neural pathway, and that negative neural pathway is going to get weak and it's going to break, and that's what we want. And the only way we can do that is by taking our focus off of this one and moving it onto this one over here. So I'd love to know in the chat what you think, if you were to just tap in, what would you love to hear? What would you love to hear? What can you create? What affirmation can you create that's going to help you to feel better whenever you divert, whenever your consciousness, whenever your mind or your memory goes into that negative place, wants to ruminate? What can you say to yourself? I would love to know. Heather says, you are smart and I love you. Yes, I love it, Heather. That's so good. You're smart and I love you. Yes, amazing. I love it. It feels so good, doesn't it? I'm here. Comes up, Raquel. That's great. I'm here. I'm here. Okay, so I'm worth good things. Yay. Perfect. Amazing. So whatever you choose, make sure that it's going to help you divert, right? It's going to bring you back to your truth. It's going to bring you back to your center. It's going to bring you back to your knowingness of yourself and how you really feel about yourself, which is the thing, right? Everything's going to be okay. I'm smart and I love you. I'm worth good things. I'm here. Yeah, perfect. Those are great. Those are really great. So have a think and have a feel. Write it down. Get yourself some post-it notes. Get yourself some post-it notes and put it everywhere if you need to get it into your brain first, right? I have my post-it notes that all say different variations of my phrase, right? Social media, Facebook groups, and Instagram are always working out for me. So it's up here. I've got everything is always working out for me. Got loads of different variations. So have fun with it. Play with it. Play with your mental chatter. Become aware of where your mental chatter is going. Are you giving your power away to the people who told you how you should think about yourself by listening to their perspectives of you and deciding that that's your truth? Because it doesn't have to be your truth. You get to decide what your truth is, right? You get to decide that you are worthy of good things and that you are here in this present moment and that you're safe and that you're loved and that everything's going to be okay and that you're smart and that you're lovable. You're so lovable. And then next week, we're going to focus on the emotional body, which is self-esteem. And remember that everything is related, everything is relative. So your mental body, your emotional body, and your physical body is all interactive. It all interacts together as one. So when you have a positive feeling, when you have a positive thought, that should trigger a positive feeling. And if it triggers a negative feeling, then you will have some underlying beliefs like it's not safe, or who am I to want this, or something bad might happen, or X, Y, and Z. There might be an underlying belief, which is why it's so important to work with a practitioner who can help you through and guide you through these underlying perspectives and beliefs that stop us from stepping into our power and stepping into our truth, right? And if you want to do that, then Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, I'm running free 30-minute coaching calls to help identify what we've got going on. I've just signed up a bunch of new clients, so I'm really excited because I'm getting to work with people to really pull up and transform their self-concept, their self-esteem, and their self-confidence. And it's really, really magical. So if you're noticing anything come up, please give me a shout. Those calls are there for everyone, 30-minute calls. And from that, you can get a better idea of what direction to go in. Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, I'll post a link in the Facebook group. I'll post a link here as well really quickly, because just in case you're not in the Facebook group. And if you're not in the Facebook group, get your butt in there right now. So that's, oops. How do I? It's not going to let me put that in the chat. That's weird. So how is everyone feeling? How's everyone doing? How does that feel in terms of like the homework for next week? Great. I'm so glad. Yay. Positive. Yay. Perfect. That's what it's all about. just going to close the chat and then reopen it again. So does everyone have access to the Facebook group that wants it? I can't put anything in the chat now. You've thought up 3 ideas, Huma. Amazing. Feel free to share them if you want to. No Facebook link. Okay. Can anyone that was here at the start scroll back and grab the Facebook link and pop it in the chat? Because you avoid social media. Yep, that's fair enough, Ashley. Absolutely. Because I can't, it's not letting me put this message in the chat. So anyone that was here earlier, I popped the Facebook group link in the chat. Let's see if I can repeat it. Copy. Chat has been a crazy one. Not going to let me put anything in the chat. Wonder if it's because I'm recording. Okay, I'm going to stop recording.